Imagine mastering new skills faster than 99% of people at work, while everyone else struggles to keep up. What if you could unlock your brain's hidden potential and turn every day into a productivity powerhouse? In this channel, you'll discover actionable strategies to learn smarter, retain knowledge effortlessly, and apply it immediately to excel in your career. From science-backed techniques to practical workflows, every tip is designed to give you a real edge. Hit subscribe and join a community committed to growth, mastery, and making success inevitable, because learning faster is the ultimate advantage. Number 1, build daily feedback loops fast. Build daily feedback loops fast and watch the shape of progress change. Small, deliberate cycles of action and feedback convert vague effort into precise improvement. The people who outlearn others at work are not the ones who absorb the most information. They are the ones who convert each piece of information into a test, then measure, then adapt, daily. This is not a productivity trick or a motivational slogan. It is a disciplined habit rooted in a simple truth. Speed of learning is the product of how quickly errors are discovered and corrected. The faster the loop, the faster the learn. Start by treating work like an experiment. Every task, conversation, or practice session contains data. The first step is to intentionally design a moment after each work chunk that collects that data. A 10-minute end-of-day ritual is enough. Close the laptop, breathe, and answer 3 direct questions on paper or in a notes app. What was achieved? What hindered progress? What will be done differently tomorrow? These questions are deliberately simple because simplicity forces honesty. Recording answers immediately captures raw sensations, the tension in the shoulders during an awkward call, the 2-minute distraction that bled into an hour, the unexpected insight that solved a tiny problem. Those raw details are the seeds of improvement. Specificity matters more than volume. Vague feedback like "did okay" or "learned something" creates no pressure to change. Replace vague judgments with measurable markers. If the goal is to learn a new data analysis technique, measure number of problems solved, minutes of focused practice, or number of mistakes corrected. If the goal is better meetings, track the number of decisions made, the length of the meeting, and whether a clear owner was assigned. This transforms feelings into signals. Signals allow adjustment. Adjustments compound. Use micro sprints to tighten the loop. Break weeks into daily sprints and days into focused blocks. Choose a single experiment for each sprint. Try a new meeting structure. Test a different approach to coding a function, or present a draft to a peer instead of refining it in isolation. Run the experiment for a short, bounded period, 1 day or 2, and capture immediate outcomes. Short sprints prevent overinvestment in a single approach and force decisive feedback. When a sprint ends, review the outcome quickly. What changed? What persisted? What surprised? The tight deadline produces decisive information, while the ritualized review turns surprise into learning. Feedback sources must be varied. Self-assessment is essential, but limited by blind spots. Seek direct external signals. Colleagues, mentors, customers, analytical dashboards, and recorded artifacts such as calls or code reviews all provide different angles. Choose 2 external sources per sprint. For instance, deliver the new slide deck to a peer for 10 minutes of critique and compare time on slide analytics from the presentation tool. This cross-check reveals whether perception matches reality. When feedback conflicts, treat it as more information, not an insight. Curiosity wins over defensiveness. Ask clarifying questions, gather examples, and test alternative changes the next day. Build quick feedback mechanisms into daily routines. A few reliable techniques accelerate feedback without adding heavy process. End-of-day flash journal, 5-10 minutes. Note 1 concrete success, 1 specific mistake, and 1 targeted action for tomorrow. Keep entries brief and factual. Over time, patterns emerge, recurring distractions, tasks that eat energy, strategies that work. 1-question check-ins after meetings or tasks. Was this outcome worth the time spent? Answer yes, no, and add a single sentence explaining why. This metric trains rapid evaluation of returns. Peer micro-reviews, 15 minutes. Exchange a short deliverable each day, an email draft, a graph, a short paragraph, and comment on what would make it clearer. The regular rhythm reduces the emotional cost of critique. Metrics dashboard. Choose one leading indicator and one lagging indicator for each major goal. Leading indicators guide daily action, number of practice reps, calls made, while lagging indicators measure impact, closed deals, deployment success. Update these indicators weekly, but scan them daily. Automation and simple tooling keep the loop light. Use a notes app with timestamps, a tiny spreadsheet, or a physical notebook. Create a template that appears every evening. The 3 questions, fields for metrics, and a checkbox for whether feedback was sought externally. Templates reduce friction. No thinking about structure, only recording. Calendar blocks labeled feedback or review enforce the habit. The human brain respects the calendar. Set a recurring 10-minute appointment at the end of the workday and defend it as the single most important minute for future improvement. Language shapes reaction. Replace failure with data, criticism with signal, and mistake with learning input. These linguistic shifts reduce the ego's resistance and make it practical to iterate. Stoic discipline appears here as an attitude. Control what can be controlled, effort, experimentation, attention, and accept that outcomes provide information, not identity. This perspective dissolves fear, encouraging faster cycles of attempt and adjustment. Examples illustrate how feedback loops accelerate learning. Consider a junior product manager preparing a feature launch. A traditional approach could involve 2 weeks of private drafting, followed by a formal review. A fast feedback approach breaks it into daily micro-releases, a 1-slide problem statement shared with a stakeholder, a prototype demo to a small user group, and an analytics snippet tracking a single behavior. Each micro-release produces feedback. Stakeholders correct assumptions. Users reveal friction. Data shows unexpected usage patterns. The product manager adapts after each micro-release, shifting priorities and improving clarity far faster than a long, solitary push. The launch becomes a sequence of learning moments rather than a single gamble. Another example is technical skill acquisition. Instead of consuming hours of tutorials, structure 5 daily 25-minute focus sessions with immediate application. Solve a problem, write a short function, or explain the concept to a colleague. After each session, run a 1-minute test. Does the solution work? If not, pinpoint the error and correct it. This near-instant feedback closes the gap between exposure and competence. Repetition with corrections builds a muscle memory of understanding. Common traps slow feedback loops. First, feedback paralysis, overanalyzing data without decisive action. Data is valuable only when it results in clear next steps. If the end-of-day review produces a dozen observations, pick one to act on tomorrow. Second, feedback avoidance. Fear of critique leads to overly long private polishing. Shorten the chain. Share early and often. Third, chasing perfect metrics. Tracking too many numbers creates noise. Select a handful that genuinely reflect the outcome of interest. Fourth, confirmation bias. Ask for feedback that challenges assumptions rather than confirming beliefs. Phrase requests to accommodate critique. Where is this unclear? Or which part would cause friction? SISH phrasing invites critical, useful responses. Ask better questions to extract better feedback. A precise question yields a precise answer. Instead of "was this good?" ask "what is one sentence that would make this clearer?" or "which assumption here is weakest?" When requesting peer feedback, provide context and a decision deadline. Reviewers perform better when given constraints. Review this paragraph for clarity in 5 minutes. Rank its urgency on a 1 to 5 scale. This produces actionable input that fits into daily sprint. Accountability amplifies speed. Pair with a colleague or mentor and exchange daily 1-line commitments and outcomes. The social expectation creates an extra nudge to seek feedback and act. If social accountability isn't available, use public artifacts as accountability. Publish a short weekly update in a team channel summarizing experiments and results. Public records transform private attempts into shared learning and encourage consistent feedback. Small rituals compound into significant advantage. The first week of disciplined daily feedback yields sharper clarity. The first month reveals patterns and enables targeted elimination of inefficiencies. The first quarter converts many small improvements into major capability changes. This is not mystical. Repetition with correction builds reliable habits and neural pathways. Incremental edge becomes exponential progress. Finally, commit to a mindset that respects discomfort. Immediate feedback often stings. This sting signals proximity to growth. Maintain a stoic stance. Discomfort is transient and instructive. Respond with curiosity and action. Withdraw the need for approval and replace it with a hunger for truth about performance. This internal shift is the linchpin. Tools and templates help, but the habit thrives when curiosity and discipline govern reactions to feedback. Daily feedback loops are the scaffolding of accelerated learning. They convert noise into signals, hesitation into experiments, and raw effort into refined skill. Start small. Design one 10-minute end-of-day review. Pick one leading metric, and share a micro-output with a peer each day. The practice will feel strange at first. Deliberation feels like extra work, but habit turns the strange into the automatic. Over time, the workday becomes a rhythm of action, measurement, and adaptation. This rhythm builds an advantage that compounds silently, turning ordinary days into steady, undeniable progress. Continuous improvement is not a secret. The secret is consistency, the courage to seek the sting of feedback daily, and the discipline to respond with a new attempt tomorrow. Number 2. Teach others to cement learning. Teaching others is one of the most powerful accelerators of learning because it forces clarity, precision, and mastery in a way that passive consumption never can. Knowledge becomes tangible when it must be articulated, explained, and defended. The mind processes information differently when it is preparing to communicate it to someone else. Gaps are revealed, assumptions are challenged, and understanding deepens. Those who outlearn others understand that learning is not merely a personal acquisition, it is a social act. To teach is to refine, to cement, and to internalize at the deepest level. Start by identifying what is worth teaching. Not every detail requires explanation, and not every skill benefits from transmission. Focus on the parts that are foundational, frequently applied, or particularly nuanced. When learning a new software tool, for instance, teaching someone the key functions that streamline daily tasks ensures that the knowledge is anchored in practical utility. When tackling conceptual frameworks, teaching them forces the synthesis of ideas into coherent structures that survive the simplification necessary for others to grasp. Teaching is a refining lens. It separates the essential from the noise. The act of teaching can take multiple forms. It does not require a formal classroom or stage. A short explanation to a colleague, a quick demo to a teammate, or a step-by-step walkthrough in writing all serve the purpose. Each format engages different cognitive pathways. Verbal explanations exercise sequencing and clarity. Written explanations train precision and permanence, and demonstrations link theory to observable reality. Choosing the right format for the lesson increases retention both for the teacher and the learner. A combination of formats reinforces understanding through multiple channels, solidifying neural pathways and practical comprehension simultaneously. Structure the teaching process to maximize insight. Begin with a clear objective. What should the learner be able to do, recognize, or solve by the end of the interaction? Break the concept into digestible units. Use examples that are relevant, relatable, and context-specific. Abstract explanations often fail because they lack touch points. Concrete examples provide anchors for comprehension. Challenge learners with questions that provoke application rather than memorization. When they attempt to apply a concept, gaps in understanding emerge, prompting clarification. This loop reinforces your own grasp while guiding theirs. Feedback is as vital in teaching as it is in learning. Observe the learner's reactions, expressions, and questions. Misunderstandings are not just opportunities for correction, they are opportunities for insight. Each question reveals a blind spot, either in your teaching or in the learner's interpretation. Adapting explanations in real time strengthens the teacher's skill at communication and deepens internal understanding. This adaptive teaching is not improvisation. It is deliberate responsiveness grounded in attention and analysis. A teacher who listens carefully often learns even faster than the learner because the act of clarifying exposes latent complexity and hidden connections. Create moments where learners must teach back. Asking someone to explain a concept to you or to solve a problem in front of a group forces the transfer of knowledge into new structures. When someone rephrases your explanation in their own words, your mind discovers new angles, questions assumptions, and reinforces retention. This recursive teaching loop, teaching to someone who teaches back, locks knowledge more firmly than solitary repetition. Even informal peer-to-peer sessions can serve as accelerators of comprehension, creating a networked learning effect that multiplies speed and depth. Storytelling elevates the effectiveness of teaching. Stories contextualize abstract principles in a narrative the brain can follow. When teaching negotiation strategies, recounting a real encounter brings the principle alive. When explaining project management techniques, illustrating with a past project's journey turns a set of bullet points into a map of decision-making, consequence, and adaptation. The sensory details, emotional resonance, and temporal sequence of stories anchor learning. Those who teach with narrative not only make concepts memorable for others, but also experience a deeper encoding of lessons themselves. Memory is never purely abstract. It is entwined with emotion and context. Teaching with stories leverages this reality. Intentional repetition amplifies the effect. Teaching the same concept to multiple people, or revisiting it in different contexts, forces the mind to approach it from multiple angles. Each repetition uncovers nuances, exposes exceptions, and refines understanding. A principle that seems simple the first time often becomes richer and more precise after being reframed for different audiences. Teaching multiple iterations builds mastery through a process of continual refinement, transforming partial understanding into durable competence. Integrating teaching into daily work routines reinforces speed and consistency. During meetings, take brief moments to clarify a process for a teammate. When completing tasks, write concise explanations of procedures or best practices. In informal conversations, answer questions with intentional clarity rather than cursory responses. Each interaction becomes a micro classroom where learning is reinforced. Over weeks, these small moments compound, producing an internalized understanding far beyond what solitary reading or observation could achieve. Teaching becomes a mode of thinking rather than an occasional activity. Use questioning strategically to enhance both teaching and learning. Socratic questioning encourages learners to think critically and uncover principles themselves. Posing well-crafted questions demands that you understand the material at a level sufficient to anticipate answers and counter questions. This anticipatory thinking strengthens mental models and forces active engagement with the material. The process of designing questions often uncovers hidden assumptions, edge cases, or applications that would otherwise remain unexplored. Teaching thus transforms into a multi-layered practice, explaining, questioning, observing, and refining in a continuous loop. Document the teaching process for reflection. Notes, diagrams, or brief summaries of lessons taught serve as a reference for future reinforcement. They also provide material for self-assessment. Where did learners struggle? Which explanations resonated? Which questions prompted new insight? Reflection consolidates the experience, transforming transient engagement into permanent learning. The act of revisiting documentation encourages metacognition, thinking about how knowledge is transmitted and internalized, and adjusting future approaches accordingly. This meta layer is where accelerated learning compounds. Teaching others demands vulnerability. Admitting uncertainty or partial understanding models honesty and encourages learners to engage actively. It also forces the teacher to confront gaps rather than hide them, creating opportunities to resolve ambiguities. Discomfort is a signal of growth. The teacher who exposes gaps, tests explanations, and refines them in real time accelerates learning faster than one who hides behind facade mastery. Vulnerability in teaching is a strategic advantage. It sharpens focus, compels preparation, and cultivates resilience. Integration into real-world applications cements lessons. Avoid hypothetical-only teaching. Anchor explanations in immediate relevance. If teaching a workflow, guide the learner through a live task. If teaching communication skills, observe, and coach during an actual conversation. Real application forces the mind to reconcile theory with reality, reinforcing neural connections and building competence that is both practical and durable. Applied teaching transforms abstract knowledge into usable skill. Teaching others is a multiplier of effort. 1 hour spent teaching can equal multiple hours of passive study in terms of retention, insight, and adaptability. The combination of articulating, observing, questioning, reflecting, and adjusting creates a dynamic cycle that surpasses traditional repetition. Those who consistently teach not only accelerate their own mastery, but also cultivate a culture of learning in their environment. Knowledge spreads, understanding deepens, and capability compounds. The act of teaching becomes both a tool for self-improvement and a legacy of influence. Ultimately, teaching others enforces discipline, sharpens focus, and transforms comprehension into skill. It converts passive consumption into active application, abstract ideas into concrete understanding, and isolated knowledge into transferable wisdom. The process is demanding, requiring clarity, patience, and adaptability, but the payoff is immense. Learning solidifies in ways that solitary effort rarely achieves. Mistakes become visible and correctable, and insight deepens. The person who teaches consistently is not merely learning. They are shaping mastery itself, turning every interaction into a stepping stone toward higher competence, resilience, and lasting success. The practice of teaching builds not only skill, but confidence. Explaining complex ideas forces simplification, clarity, and precision. Over time, the teacher becomes attuned to nuance, capable of diagnosing problems and proposing solutions in real time. This skill accelerates professional growth, enhances influence, and solidifies expertise. Teaching is therefore both an instrument and a mirror. It reveals understanding while forging it simultaneously. Those who commit to teaching as a habit transform learning from a passive accumulation into an active, living, and self-reinforcing process. By embedding the act of teaching into daily work, learning becomes iterative, self-correcting, and cumulative. Each explanation, each correction, each guided practice session reinforces the mind's grasp, converts insight into behavior, and accelerates progression. Teaching others is not an optional enhancement. It is a cornerstone of rapid, effective, and lasting learning. Mastery is not granted by reading alone. It is earned by translating knowledge into action and communicating it to others, cementing understanding with every interaction. Number 3. Apply immediately after consuming information. Knowledge alone is inert. It is a fragile spark until it meets action. The fastest learners understand this. Insight is transformed into competence only when applied immediately. Waiting days, weeks, or even hours after consuming information allows the mind to forget details, obscure nuance, and diminish the sense of urgency that sharpens understanding. Immediate application cements concepts, transforms abstract ideas into skills, and forges neural connections that are both durable and practical. This principle is simple, yet profoundly underutilized in most workplaces. Learning becomes alive only through action. When information is consumed, whether through reading, listening, observing, or studying, it carries a fleeting clarity. Details are vivid, connections intuitive, and questions naturally arise. Applying knowledge at that moment preserves that vividness. The first step is to capture the immediate insight and translate it into a specific action. For instance, after learning a new communication strategy, draft an email or initiate a short conversation that uses that technique. If a new spreadsheet function is discovered, open the program and execute it on a real dataset. The goal is not perfection. The goal is integration. Application solidifies understanding in a way that passive review cannot replicate. Fragmentation of learning is a common obstacle. People often consume information in bursts, but fail to create immediate touchpoints with real work. This creates a gap between theory and practice, leaving the mind with abstract knowledge but no skill. To prevent this, every piece of learning should trigger a direct application step. After listening an audiobook chapter, summarize the key point in actionable terms and test it in a small experiment. After reading a case study, Replicate the logic in your current project. Immediate application creates a bridge between consumption and competence, transforming potential into tangible progress. Speed of application matters more than perfection. The act of doing reinforces neural pathways and identifies gaps that theory alone cannot expose. Mistakes are not failures, they are data points that accelerate learning. If a marketing strategy is read about in a book, draft a rough plan and review the outcomes rather than waiting to refine it endlessly. If a coding shortcut is discovered, implement it in a small project immediately. Rapid cycles of application and reflection amplify skill acquisition far faster than delayed execution. Breaking down information into micro-actions makes immediate application feasible. Complex concepts often feel overwhelming, which leads to procrastination. Divide them into smaller, executable steps. If the lesson is about negotiation, first practice phrasing one specific type of request in a conversation. If the lesson is about leadership, begin by delegating a single task differently. Small wins provide momentum, reduce friction, and make the integration of knowledge into daily work seamless. The accumulation of these small applications produces substantial transformation over time. Design a routine that naturally links learning with action. When consuming information, always carry a notebook, a notes app, or a mind map. Record the insight and immediately ask, how can I apply this in the next hour? The next hour is critical. It is close enough to the learning moment that retention is high, yet practical enough to test relevance. Scheduling a specific window for application, even 15 minutes, ensures that ideas do not remain theoretical. Immediate testing converts cognitive energy into behavioral change. Reflection completes the cycle. After applying a concept, observe the outcome carefully. Did the approach work? Were assumptions correct? Were there unintended effects? Documenting results strengthens understanding, guides adjustments, and turns action into feedback. Without reflection, immediate application risks becoming mechanical repetition rather than deliberate learning. The synergy of action and analysis accelerates mastery, building competence that is grounded in reality rather than abstraction. Integrating learning into real tasks amplifies effectiveness. Avoid isolated experiments that have no connection to actual responsibilities. Each application should contribute to meaningful outcomes, even if small. For example, if a new time management technique is discovered, implement it in the planning of a real project rather than a hypothetical scenario. Linking learning with tangible results reinforces both skill and confidence. The mind rewards relevance. It encodes actions that produce impact far more robustly than idle exercises. The principle applies across all domains. Cognitive skills, technical skills, interpersonal abilities, all improve faster when tested immediately. After reading about persuasive techniques, initiate a conversation using the methods. After learning a shortcut in design software, implement it on the current project. The immediacy of action locks concepts into memory and reveals gaps that require further attention. Learning transforms from passive exposure to active, iterative mastery. Habitual immediate application requires intentional discipline. Set a rule. Every insight triggers one actionable step within the same work session. This prevents procrastination and reduces cognitive decay. Even if the action is small, a single sentence, a sketch, a prototype, it reinforces learning. Over time, the habit of immediate application becomes automatic. The brain begins to associate consumption with execution, creating a rhythm where learning is inseparable from doing. Use constraints to enhance learning through action. Limiting time, resources, or scope increases focus and clarity. For instance, if a new project management tool is being learned, test it on a single task with a 10-minute limit. Constraints force prioritization, sharpen decision-making, and reveal practical limitations of theory. Applying knowledge under constraint mirrors real-world challenges, strengthening both adaptability and skill retention. Pair application with teaching when possible. Explaining a new concept while implementing it doubles retention. When a new process is applied in work, briefly show a colleague how it was done or why it matters. This not only reinforces personal understanding, but also creates a culture of collaborative learning. The integration of application and teaching accelerates both competence and influence. reinforcing mastery through dual engagement. Document applications and outcomes. Maintain a record of insights applied, successes, failures, and observations. Over time, this forms a personal database of experiential learning, which can be revisited and refined. Tracking progress reinforces accountability, highlights patterns, and accelerates the identification of effective strategies. Application without record-keeping risks repeating mistakes or losing valuable lessons. Documentation converts ephemeral action into permanent skill. Recognize that delayed perfection is a trap. The desire to apply knowledge flawlessly often inhibits immediate action. Embrace imperfection. Action itself is a vehicle for learning. A partially executed idea teaches more than perfect planning without execution. Mistakes illuminate nuances, provoke new strategies, and embed understanding. Immediate application with iterative refinement transforms hesitation into momentum. Integration with daily workflows solidifies the practice. Each project, task, or interaction should become an opportunity to implement freshly acquired knowledge. Learning is no longer an isolated activity, but a continuous, living process embedded in work. Over weeks, the accumulation of small applications produces exponential growth. Every task becomes both a test and a teacher, merging learning and doing into a seamless cycle. Motivation is reinforced by visible results. Immediate application allows the learner to witness tangible outcomes quickly, which fuels confidence and persistence. The mind naturally reinforces behaviors that produce observable impact. By creating a habit of acting immediately, learning is continually validated, reinforcing both skill and enthusiasm. Progress becomes visible, measurable, and self-sustaining. Cognitive and emotional engagement is heightened when knowledge is applied instantly. Ideas cease to be abstract concepts and become living tools, tested against reality. The brain processes these experiences more deeply, combining analytical reasoning, sensory perception, and emotional feedback. This holistic engagement strengthens memory, refines judgment, and enhances adaptability. Learning is no longer passive. It becomes a full-bodied experience. Finally, commit to relentless immediacy. Make it non-negotiable. No insight remains untested beyond the current session. Transform curiosity into action, exposure into practice, and understanding into skill. This principle creates a feedback-rich environment where learning is active, measurable, and continuous. Those who consistently apply knowledge immediately develop a momentum that far outpaces peers who rely on delayed action. Over time, the compounding effect is extraordinary. Every day yields new competence, insight, and capability. Immediate application converts information into skill, theory into habit, and potential into achievement. It transforms the workplace into a living laboratory where every lesson is tested, refined, and embedded. The fastest learners are not those who read the most or watch the most. They are those who act the fastest. The discipline to apply knowledge as soon as it is acquired turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results, establishing a rhythm of learning that propels growth, resilience, and enduring success. Number 4. Focus on high-leverage skills. In the pursuit of accelerated learning, not all skills are created equal. Some skills produce disproportionate results, influencing multiple outcomes across projects, relationships, and personal growth. These are high-leverage skills, the abilities that amplify effort, multiply impact, and create exponential returns. Focusing on them is the difference between busy work and meaningful progress. Time invested in these areas compounds, shaping competence that transforms work performance and personal capability far faster than scattered, low-impact activity. Recognizing and prioritizing these skills is the cornerstone of rapid advancement. The first step is discernment, identifying which skills offer the most leverage. Look for abilities that solve recurring problems, influence outcomes in multiple areas, or unlock further learning opportunities. Effective communication, critical thinking, problem-solving, leadership, negotiation, and technical proficiencies often fall into this category. The goal is not to master every possible skill, but to concentrate on those that yield the greatest results for effort invested. This approach creates a multiplier effect, ensuring that time spent learning is strategic, not wasted. High-leverage skills have a compounding property. Improvement in one area accelerates growth in others. For instance, enhancing decision-making sharpens problem-solving, project management, and leadership simultaneously. Improving analytical thinking strengthens research, data interpretation, and strategic planning. Each skill interacts with others, creating a web of competence that grows faster than isolated, linear skill acquisition. Prioritizing high-leverage skills builds a foundation upon which further learning can expand efficiently, allowing mastery to accumulate in layers rather than scattered fragments. To focus on these skills, establish clear objectives. Determine what mastery would look like in concrete, measurable terms. If leadership is chosen as a high-leverage skill, define specific behaviors, delegating effectively, motivating teams, resolving conflicts, or presenting with clarity. If negotiation is prioritized, identify measurable outcomes such as improved agreements, faster deal closure, or increased satisfaction of both parties. Specific targets create clarity and urgency, guiding practice toward real impact rather than abstract aspiration. Intentional practice is critical. High-leverage skills cannot be absorbed passively. Learning must be embedded in meaningful application. Seek opportunities where skill use produces observable consequences. Leadership can be exercised in team projects, mentoring sessions, or cross-functional collaborations. Negotiation can be practiced in procurement, partnerships, or internal resource allocation. By situating practice within real-world contexts, skills are reinforced in authentic scenarios, producing learning that sticks far deeper than theory or simulation alone. Deliberate reflection enhances the value of practice. After applying a high-leverage skill, analyze outcomes carefully. Identify what worked, what failed, and why. Reflection sharpens understanding and reveals patterns that can be replicated or avoided. Without conscious evaluation, practice risks being mechanical and ineffective. Reflection converts repetition into insight, deepening mastery while reducing wasted effort. Each cycle of application and reflection strengthens judgment, accelerates growth, and ensures that learning translates into measurable impact. Prioritization requires ruthlessness. Not all skills merit attention at every moment. Low-impact abilities may feel urgent or appealing, but they rarely produce exponential returns. High-leverage skill development demands focus and elimination of distraction. If problem-solving is chosen, avoid spending time on minor rote tasks that do not challenge analytical faculties. If communication is prioritized, allocate energy toward crafting persuasive presentations rather than peripheral writing. The discipline to eliminate low-value tasks amplifies the effect of concentrated skill improvement. Learning high-leverage skills benefits from layering, starting with foundational elements and progressively advancing complexity. For instance, negotiation begins with understanding principles of influence, progresses to structured bargaining, and evolves into managing multi-party agreements. Leadership grows from self-management to team coordination to organizational influence. Each layer builds upon previous mastery, accelerating overall competence, while avoiding wasted effort on advanced techniques that cannot yet be applied effectively. Layered learning ensures skill development is efficient, practical, and enduring. Feedback is essential to high-leverage skill acquisition. These abilities often involve interaction, interpretation, and judgment. Without external perspective, blind spots remain hidden. Seek honest input from mentors, peers, or supervisors. Constructive critique illuminates gaps and reinforces strengths. High-leverage skill development is iterative. Learn, apply, receive feedback, adjust, and repeat. This cycle ensures that growth is not theoretical but tangible, measurable, and aligned with real-world effectiveness. Time management is a hidden lever in skill mastery. Devoting focused, uninterrupted periods to high-leverage practice increases retention, accelerates proficiency, and avoids fragmentation. Deep work sessions dedicated to applying, reflecting, and refining a chosen skill allow concentration to compound, producing exponential improvement. The mind requires continuity to develop sophisticated abilities. Fragmented attention undermines progress and slows learning velocity. Protect time, minimize distraction, and structure practice deliberately. Integration into daily workflows maximizes relevance. Embed high-leverage skill application into existing responsibilities. If analytical thinking is targeted, analyze current datasets, reports, or operational patterns. If leadership is prioritized, lead meetings, mentor junior colleagues, or manage initiatives. Applying skills in context ensures that growth is aligned with meaningful work, creating immediate impact while reinforcing the learning cycle. Skills flourish when they serve purpose rather than exist in isolation. High-leverage skill development thrives on challenge. Comfort slows growth. Deliberate exposure to difficulty accelerates mastery. Seek scenarios that stretch abilities without overwhelm. Negotiating under mild pressure, leading cross-functional teams, or solving complex problems with incomplete information produces learning that is both rapid and robust. These experiences expand capability and resilience simultaneously, reinforcing the notion that skill acquisition is inseparable from real-world test and feedback. Documenting progress solidifies growth. Maintain records of outcomes, insights, mistakes, and successful strategies. Journaling skill development reveals patterns, tracks improvements, and provides reference points for continued refinement. Reviewing documented experiences strengthens retention, informs strategy adjustments, and highlights the tangible benefits of focused effort. Over time, these records illustrate the exponential returns of high-leverage skill investment. High-leverage skills create optionality. Mastery produces confidence, influence, and the ability to tackle diverse challenges efficiently. A well-developed skill allows choices in strategy, approach, and execution, multiplying effectiveness across domains. The compounding nature of high-leverage abilities means that effort invested now continues to produce returns in unforeseen contexts, creating professional mobility, adaptability, and long-term growth. Mentorship accelerates development of high-leverage skills. Observing and interacting with those who have already mastered these abilities shortens the learning curve. Seek opportunities to shadow, learn from, and receive feedback from skilled practitioners. Their insights, strategies, and corrections illuminate pitfalls, refine technique, and provide a model of excellence to emulate. Learning from experience compressed through mentorship produces efficiency that individual trial and error cannot match. Mindset shapes the outcome of skill development. Approach high-leverage abilities with patience, resilience, and discipline. Progress is rarely linear. Setbacks are inevitable. Viewing challenges as feedback, errors as data, and effort as compounding investment transforms obstacles into accelerants. Maintaining focus on long-term impact rather than short-term comfort ensures persistence and ultimately mastery. Continuous reassessment prevents wasted effort. Periodically evaluate whether chosen skills remain the highest leverage relative to evolving goals. Adapt focus to align with shifting responsibilities, organizational priorities, or personal growth objectives. This prevents stagnation, ensures ongoing relevance, and maintains the multiplier effect of concentrated effort. Strategic reassessment guarantees that energy is always invested where returns are greatest. The combination of focus, deliberate practice, reflection, feedback, and context creates a cycle of compounding growth. High-leverage skills accelerate learning across domains, strengthen performance, and produce results that ordinary effort cannot match. Concentration on these skills is not optional. It is the mechanism that separates those who achieve exceptional impact from those who remain competent, but unremarkable. Focusing on high-leverage skills is both an art and a science. It requires insight to identify which abilities matter most, discipline to allocate time and energy exclusively to them, and persistence to practice consistently while evaluating outcomes. Each skill developed with intent multiplies effect, creating a trajectory of exponential capability. Those who master this approach experience rapid professional growth, enhanced problem solving, and a lasting competitive edge. Prioritizing high-leverage skills converts effort into impact. Ordinary work produces incremental gains, but concentrated, purposeful skill development accelerates competence, influence, and adaptability. By committing to this principle, learning becomes an investment with compounding returns. Each day spent practicing strategically builds not just proficiency, but mastery. The results of deliberate focus echo far beyond the immediate task, shaping careers, projects, and personal growth in profound and enduring ways. Number 5. Use spaced repetition at work. Retention is the silent partner of learning. Knowledge gained and then forgotten serves little purpose. The brain craves repetition spaced over time to strengthen memory and ensure that information transitions from short-term exposure to long-term mastery. Spaced repetition is not a new concept. It is a neurological principle grounded in the way human memory consolidates information. Applied deliberately in a workplace context, it transforms ordinary learning into durable skill, ensuring that knowledge is not fleeting but actionable when needed. At its core, spaced repetition leverages the timing of review. The first exposure introduces the concept, and subsequent reviews are scheduled at increasing intervals. Each repetition is strategically placed, just as the memory begins to fade. This timing forces recall, strengthens neural pathways, and prevents decay. In a work environment, this could mean revisiting a new project management framework, a technical process, or an interpersonal technique at carefully planned intervals. The effect compounds. With each repetition, retention becomes stronger, recall faster, and application more confident. The process begins by identifying what deserves repeated attention. Focus on high-value information, knowledge that drives decision-making, informs processes, or enhances skill. Examples include company procedures, critical software shortcuts, regulatory requirements, strategic principles, or nuanced interpersonal skills. Prioritize information that, when retained, yields significant leverage and performance. Spaced repetition is most effective when applied selectively. Attempting to repeat every piece of information dilutes focus and undermines efficiency. Precision in selection ensures that time invested produces maximum cognitive return. Implementation requires structured tracking. Create a system to organize content, set review intervals, and monitor recall. Tools can be digital or physical, apps designed for spaced repetition, spreadsheets, or a simple notebook with dates for follow-up review. The method is not about mere repetition, but about timed recall. After the first encounter, schedule the first review within a day or two, the next in 4 to 5 days, then a week, then 2 weeks, and so on. The intervals can be adjusted based on difficulty and retention rate. The principle is consistency and progressive spacing. Active engagement during repetition is crucial. Passive review, simply rereading or skimming notes, is insufficient. The brain strengthens memory through retrieval practice, attempting to recall information before confirming accuracy. For instance, after learning a new client onboarding procedure, close the manual and attempt to outline steps from memory. Then check accuracy, correct mistakes, and repeat. Each retrieval solidifies memory, and the spacing ensures long-term retention. Active recall is the engine, and spacing is the timing mechanism. Integration with daily work tasks amplifies effectiveness. Do not treat spaced repetition as a separate activity. Embed it into real work. If a new software tool is learned, apply features repeatedly over days and weeks, while deliberately testing recall. If learning negotiation techniques, rehearse scripts, then apply them in meetings, reviewing key points after each interaction. Contextual application reinforces memory, making the recall practical and functional rather than abstract. This combination of repetition and real-world use transforms knowledge into skill. Documentation is essential for tracking progress. Maintain a log of information, review intervals, and outcomes of recall attempts. Notes on success, failure, and nuances discovered during application provide material for reflection and adjustment. The log becomes both a tool for accountability and a map of evolving expertise. Revisiting documentation allows learners to anticipate challenges, spot patterns, and ensure that retention is reinforced systematically rather than haphazardly. Customization enhances results. Not all information is equally difficult to retain. Adjust repetition intervals based on complexity, relevance, and previous recall success. A simple concept may require less frequent review, while a complex or abstract principle may demand shorter, more frequent intervals. Personal experience, prior knowledge, and context influence the optimal timing. By tailoring the schedule, the process respects cognitive load while maximizing retention efficiency. Spaced repetition also combats cognitive decay under pressure. In high-stakes work environments, knowledge that is not reinforced tends to fade exactly when needed most. For instance, a sales script forgotten during a critical negotiation, or a regulatory procedure overlooked during compliance review, can have serious consequences. Repeated timed reinforcement ensures information is accessible when required, reducing stress, increasing confidence, and improving outcomes. It bridges the gap between learning and reliable performance. Collaboration enhances spaced repetition. Discussing new information with colleagues, teaching concepts, or jointly reviewing material strengthens memory and exposes gaps. Social reinforcement creates accountability and motivation. If a team adopts repetition cycles, group sessions can be scheduled to revisit critical skills, share insights, and practice applications. Collective engagement accelerates retention while creating a culture of shared learning. Spaced repetition is most effective when paired with reflection. After each review or application, take a moment to assess comprehension, integration, and relevance. Identify which aspects are easily recalled, which require further attention, and what can be adapted or expanded. Reflection reinforces learning by creating awareness of progress, clarifying weak points, and informing subsequent repetitions. The process becomes cyclical: learn, apply, review, reflect, and repeat. Micro-rehearsals are particularly effective in the workplace. Short, focused sessions repeated over time reinforce memory without consuming excessive time. 5 to 10 minutes reviewing a process, practicing a skill, or recalling key principles daily is more impactful than an extended single session. Micro-rehearsals fit naturally into breaks, transitions, or task intervals, making repetition sustainable without overwhelming workflow. Consistency outweighs duration in building durable mastery. Feedback loops enhance the impact of spaced repetition. Each recall or application should produce measurable outcomes or verification of accuracy. Errors discovered during repetition are not failures. They are critical signals for adjustment. Correcting mistakes immediately ensures that memory strengthens along correct lines, preventing reinforcement of incorrect information. Feedback transforms repetition from rote activity into meaningful refinement, enhancing both skill and confidence. Emotional engagements strengthens retention. For instance, linking information to personal experience, tangible results, or emotional resonance enhances the effect of spaced repetition. Remembering a client's preference, a past challenge, or a successful strategy creates associations that anchor memory. The brain prioritizes emotionally relevant experiences, making retrieval faster and more reliable. Align repetition with real-world impact to solidify both practical and emotional retention. Time investment compounds over weeks and months. Regular spaced practice produces long-term mastery. Knowledge revisited repeatedly becomes second nature, freeing cognitive resources for higher-order thinking, problem-solving, and innovation. Skills that were once effortful evolve into instinctive competence. The compounding effect ensures that incremental daily practice yields substantial expertise, far surpassing occasional intensive study. Spaced repetition cultivates discipline. The structure of scheduled reviews instills responsibility, consistency, and foresight. The learner develops awareness of cognitive rhythms, attention, and memory. Discipline and repetition translates into improved focus across other tasks, reinforcing the capacity to learn, adapt, and perform. Mastery of repetition schedules mirrors mastery of attention management. Spaced repetition transforms the workplace into a dynamic learning environment. Each piece of knowledge becomes an asset that grows in utility over time. Skills and insights are not lost, but reinforced, integrated, and applied. The method bridges theory and practice, short-term exposure and long-term retention, creating professionals who are not merely informed but capable, confident, and agile. Implementing spaced repetition is not about perfection, but about persistence. Even partial adherence produces measurable gains. Missing a scheduled review is not failure. Returning promptly maintains momentum. The strength lies in the ongoing cycle, not single instances. Long-term consistency outpaces intermittent intensity, producing durable and practical learning that scales over time. Ultimately, spaced repetition ensures that learning is cumulative, reliable, and actionable. Information is no longer transient. It becomes a tool, a skill, and a foundation for growth. When applied strategically, it transforms work performance, accelerates expertise, and reinforces a culture of continuous improvement. The professional who embraces spaced repetition moves beyond temporary knowledge into lasting competence, creating an advantage that multiplies with every deliberate review, reflection, and application. Number 6, eliminate distractions during deep practice. Concentration is the hidden force behind accelerated learning. The ability to focus without interruption is what separates superficial familiarity from deep mastery. In the workplace, distractions are abundant. Notifications, emails, open tabs, conversations, meetings, and the constant pull of multitasking fragment attention. Every interruption diminishes cognitive depth, dilutes retention, and slows progress. Eliminating distractions during deep practice is not simply about comfort or convenience. It is about creating conditions where the mind can fully engage, explore complexity, and form durable understanding. Begin by defining what constitutes deep practice. It is intentional, focused work that stretches abilities, challenges assumptions, and engages problem-solving at the edge of competence. Reading an article while half-watching a video is not deep practice. Drafting a report while responding to a stream of messages does not count. Deep practice requires immersion in the task at hand, uninterrupted reflection, and continuous evaluation. Only in this state can learning accelerate, connections form, and insights emerge. The first step is environmental control. Remove visual and auditory interruptions that compete for attention. This may involve clearing the desk of unrelated materials, muting notifications, or using noise-canceling headphones. Create a physical space that signals focus, a tidy, organized area where only the tools necessary for the task are present. The brain interprets surroundings as cues. A cluttered environment encourages fragmented thinking, while a controlled environment signals the mind to engage fully. Time blocking is essential. Schedule dedicated intervals for deep practice, treating them as non-negotiable appointments. Even short, consistent periods, 30 to 90 minutes, produce significant results if distractions are minimized. Protect this time rigorously. Inform colleagues of unavailability, disable alerts, and create boundaries. The discipline of reserved time prevents fragmentation and allows the mind to reach the flow state, where attention is sustained and performance peaks. Digital discipline is critical in modern work. Smartphones, browsers, and communication platforms are constant sources of cognitive leakage. Use tools that restrict access to distracting apps or websites during practice sessions. Close unrelated tabs, silence push notifications, and consider temporary offline work if possible. The mind cannot sustain depth when attention is repeatedly hijacked. Uninterrupted focus is the medium in which understanding grows. Prioritize tasks to maximize the impact of deep practice. Not all activities benefit equally from focused attention. Identify the tasks that require cognitive efforts, skill development, or creativity. Allocate distraction-free time to these high-value activities, while routine or repetitive tasks can be scheduled during less focused periods. The principle is strategic allocation. Apply your most concentrated energy where the return on effort is highest. Internal distractions, wandering thoughts, anxiety, or mental fatigue also disrupt deep practice. Manage these by establishing a pre-practice routine. Short mindfulness exercises, brief reflection, or controlled breathing prepares the mind to engage fully. Setting a clear intention for the session, such as mastering a specific concept, solving a defined problem, or experimenting with a technique, channels mental energy. When the mind is primed, distractions are less likely to intrude. Chunking is an effective method for sustaining deep practice. Break complex tasks into smaller focused segments. Attempting to tackle a large, multifaceted project in one stretch can overwhelm attention and invite distraction. By segmenting work into manageable units, the brain can maintain concentration, produce higher quality output, and recover more effectively between intervals. Brief, planned breaks prevent cognitive overload while preserving immersion. Set measurable goals for each practice session. When attention is anchored to specific outcomes, whether mastering a skill, completing a prototype, or solving a problem, distraction loses appeal. Clear objectives provide direction, motivation, and a framework for evaluating success. The mind remains engaged because progress is tangible and effort is rewarded with observable outcomes. Goals transform deep practice from passive effort into strategic, result-oriented activity. Eliminating distractions also involves social management. Interruptions from colleagues, calls, or casual conversations fragment focus. Communicate boundaries clearly, indicate when collaboration is welcome and when focus is paramount. Use signals such as closed doors, headphones, or status indicators to reduce accidental interruptions. Social discipline preserves cognitive continuity, creating an environment conducive to sustained engagement. External aids can reinforce concentration. Timers, task lists, and structured workflows provide guidance and accountability. A timer creates urgency and delineates the session, discouraging mental drift. Task lists reduce cognitive load by clarifying priorities, allowing the mind to concentrate fully on execution rather than recall. Workflows streamline decisions, freeing attention for high-value cognitive process. Reflection during and after deep practice enhances retention. Periodically assess focus quality, identify sources of distraction, and adjust strategies. Were interruptions internal or external? Did attention waver and why? Understanding patterns allows targeted interventions, modifying environment, adjusting time blocks, or enhancing pre-practice routines. Reflection converts practice into adaptive learning, ensuring that concentration improves iteratively. Physical factors influence attention. Fatigue, poor posture, inadequate hydration, and hunger compromise deep engagement. Addressing these physiological needs enhances cognitive capacity. A well-rested mind is more resilient to distraction, more capable of sustained focus, and more receptive to complex problem solving. Deep practice thrives when the body supports the brain, creating a holistic environment for learning. Use the principle of progressive challenge to maintain focus. As competence grows, tasks should become increasingly demanding to sustain mental engagement. Repetitive, unchallenging work invites distraction. Growth requires difficulty. By continually raising the bar within deep practice sessions, attention remains fully engaged. Learning accelerates, and mastery expands. Challenge fuels focus, transforming mental effort into skill acquisition. Eliminating distractions is not only about removing interference, but also about mental commitment. The mind must accept that deep practice is a priority above competing impulses. Discipline and intentionality create internal resistance to distraction. Treat focus as a scarce, valuable resource and guard it rigorously. Respecting the sanctity of concentrated work strengthens self-control, a skill that compounds across all areas of life and career. Technology can be harnessed to reinforce concentration rather than fragment it. Tools that track focus, block interruptions, or provide structured practice intervals support deep engagement. For example, apps that enforce single tasking, track session durations, or measure output provide feedback on adherence to focused work. Leveraging these tools amplifies results, converting intention into measurable, repeatable habits. Mental framing is key. View deep practice as a deliberate exploration rather than mere task completion. Curiosity, engagement, and problem-solving provide intrinsic motivation that strengthens concentration. When work is framed as meaningful and growth-oriented, the mind naturally resists distraction, sustaining focus longer and producing higher quality output. Engagement is the fuel of deep practice. Meaning is the end. Small, consistent sessions produce cumulative impact. Even brief, highly focused intervals daily yield greater results than longer, interrupted sessions. Consistency reinforces neural pathways, embeds habits of attention, and ensures progressive skill development. The compound effect of repeated deep practice surpasses sporadic bursts, transforming incremental effort into expertise. Accountability strengthens focus. Sharing progress with a peer, mentor, or manager reinforces commitment to distraction-free work. Accountability encourages preparation, minimizes procrastination, and heightens awareness of interruptions. Social reinforcement creates an external check that complements internal discipline, enhancing the effectiveness of deep practice. Ultimately, eliminating distractions during deep practice is the foundation of accelerated learning. The mind must be allowed to immerse fully, process complexity, and test boundaries. Interruptions fragment effort, reduce retention, and slow progress. By controlling environment, time, digital stimuli, social interactions, and internal focus, mastery becomes achievable at a pace and depths unavailable under constant distraction. Deep practice is not merely a method, it is the crucible in which skill, knowledge, and resilience are forged. The professional who consistently protects attention develops extraordinary capability. Each distraction-free session compounds previous effort, transforming accumulated hours into skill that is agile, reliable, and deeply understood. Eliminating distractions is an act of respect for the mind's potential. It signals seriousness, intention, and commitment. Over time, this disciplined focus produces mastery that is visible in results, felt in confidence, and enduring in value. Distraction-free deep practice turns ordinary workdays into laboratories of learning. The mind becomes sharper, insights arrive faster, and skills solidify in real time. What was once fleeting knowledge evolves into lasting competence. Focus is both the medium and the multiplier, converting effort into results, curiosity into capability, and learning into mastery. Each uninterrupted session builds upon the last, creating a momentum that carries forward into every task, challenge, and opportunity. Mastery emerges not from speed, but from the depth of attention applied consistently over time. Number 7. Ask better questions consistently daily. Questions are the gateway to clarity, understanding, and accelerated learning. The quality of insight one gains is directly proportional to the quality of questions asked. Most people navigate work with assumptions, untested beliefs, and vague curiosity. They accept surface-level information and rarely challenge it. The result is slow learning, repeated mistakes, and superficial comprehension. Consistently asking better questions reshapes thought patterns, deepens understanding, and transforms ordinary work into a dynamic process of discovery. It is through questions that the mind tests reality, explores alternatives, and uncovers knowledge that is otherwise hidden. Start with intentionality. Every morning, approach the day with the mindset that each interaction, task, and observation is an opportunity to ask questions that produce insight. Intentional questioning is not reactive, it is deliberate and proactive. Before engaging with a report, a colleague, or a new concept, frame what you truly need to understand. Define gaps in knowledge, assumptions to verify, and desired outcomes. Clarity of intent directs questions toward meaningful exploration rather than idle curiosity. Shift from general to precise inquiries. Vague questions, such as, "Does this work?" or "Is this okay?" rarely yield useful answers. Replace them with targeted, actionable questions that expose detail and provoke thought. For example, instead of asking, "Did the project succeed?" ask, "Which specific decisions had the greatest impact on project outcomes, and why?" Precision in questioning forces deeper analysis, uncovers root causes, and creates actionable insight that can be immediately applied. Prioritize why and how over what. Understanding underlying mechanisms and reasons produces depth, while mere facts produce only temporary awareness. Asking "Why did this approach fail?" or "How could this process be optimized?" engages critical thinking, encourages reflection, and produces solutions rather than mere observation. The most impactful questions are those that illuminate causality, interconnections, and practical pathways forward. Cultivate a habit of daily questioning. Integrate short periods throughout the day where questions are deliberately generated and recorded. After reading a report, Pause and ask, what assumptions underlie these findings? After a meeting, ask, which factors influence decisions and which were overlooked? By embedding this habit into daily workflows, questioning becomes automatic, habitual, and second nature, producing cumulative learning over time. Leverage curiosity strategically. Not every curiosity is equally valuable. Focus on questions that address recurring problems, high-leverage skills, or critical decisions. Identify areas where better understanding produces outsized results. For example, in client management, ask questions that reveal preferences, motivations, or potential obstacles. In project execution, inquire about risks, dependencies, and bottlenecks. Targeted curiosity ensures that effort yields maximum insight rather than scattered, inconsequential observations. Develop layered questions. Start with broad exploration, then refine into specificity. Initial questions reveal general patterns. Subsequent questions probe deeper layers. For instance, when reviewing a workflow, ask first, which steps are most time-consuming? Then follow with, why does this step require more effort than anticipated? And how can it be streamlined? Layered questioning uncovers root causes, hidden assumptions, and practical interventions that are otherwise invisible. Record questions and answers systematically. Writing down questions ensures they are not lost in the rush of work, and documenting responses preserves insight for reflection. Over time, the collection of questions becomes a map of understanding, revealing patterns, gaps, and recurring themes. This system converts fleeting curiosity into structured learning, allowing the mind to connect past inquiries to current challenges and anticipate future ones. Embrace challenging and uncomfortable questions. Many avoid asking questions that might expose ignorance or disrupt consensus. Yet these questions often produce the greatest learning. Asking what if our assumptions are wrong, or which risks are we ignoring, forces critical evaluation and fosters problem solving. Discomfort is a signal that insight is near. Challenging questions illuminate blind spots and accelerate growth by compelling deeper analysis and reflection. Combine questioning with observation. Effective questions often emerge from careful attention to details, behaviors, and patterns. Observe processes, decisions, and interactions closely, then ask questions that probe inconsistencies, surprises, or inefficiencies. For example, if a team consistently misses deadlines, ask, which process step creates the bottleneck, and why has it persisted? Observation fuels informed questioning, ensuring that inquiries are grounded in reality rather than speculation. Use questions to test assumptions. Every piece of information carries embedded beliefs. Asking what assumptions underpin this recommendation, or could alternative interpretations exist, exposes hidden biases and challenges conventional thinking. This practice fosters critical evaluation, prevents premature conclusions, and promotes independent judgment. Questioning assumptions transforms reactive behavior into strategic, thoughtful action. Incorporate reflective questions at the end of each day. Ask yourself, what did I learn today that I did not know yesterday? And which decisions were guided by insight versus habit? Daily reflection creates a feedback loop, transforming experience into structured knowledge. It also strengthens self-awareness, revealing patterns in thinking, recurring gaps, and opportunities for growth. Reflection combined with questioning produces durable understanding rather than fleeting comprehension. Prioritize open-ended questions. Closed-ended inquiries often limit insight and produce superficial answers. Open-ended questions encourage exploration, dialogue, and multiple perspectives. For example, asking how could we improve client satisfaction generates analysis and ideas, while asking are clients satisfied yields only yes or no. Open-ended questions provoke thought, invite alternative solutions, and deepen understanding. Pair questioning with accountability. Share your inquiries with mentors, peers, or supervisors, and solicit feedback. External input enhances the depth and relevance of questions, exposing blind spots and introducing perspectives otherwise overlooked. Accountability ensures consistency, encourages rigor, and maintains focus on questions that produce meaningful learning rather than trivial curiosity. Monitor the evolution of questions over time. The ability to ask better questions grows as expertise develops. Review previous questions periodically to identify improvements in depth, specificity, and relevance. Recognize how new knowledge informs subsequent inquiries, creating a continuous loop of refinement. This meta-awareness accelerates mastery, transforming the act of questioning itself into a skill that compounds over time. Challenge conventional wisdom consistently. Ask questions that disrupt assumptions and explore alternatives. For example, why is this standard practice followed? Or could there be a more effective approach? Interrogating accepted norms reveals inefficiencies, sparks innovation, and strengthens critical thinking. Consistent, disciplined questioning prevents stagnation, encourages adaptation, and ensures that learning remains active rather than passive. Use questions to enhance problem solving. When faced with a challenge, systematically ask, what is the root cause? What variables affect this outcome? And what options have not been considered? Structured questioning breaks complex problems into manageable components, exposes hidden dependencies, and uncovers actionable solutions. Regular practice in this method transforms problem solving from guesswork into a disciplined, repeatable process. Leverage the principle of learning by questioning to accelerate expertise. Every question asked and pursued strengthens neural pathways, reinforces understanding, and produces insight that becomes immediately applicable. A habit of consistent questioning converts curiosity into competence, observation into strategy, and information into actionable intelligence. Those who master the art of asking better questions daily gain a continuous advantage, outpacing peers who passively consume information without interrogation. Finally, cultivate persistence in inquiry. Not every question will yield immediate clarity, and some answers may be uncomfortable or complex. Consistent engagement, patience, and willingness to follow through are essential. Daily questioning, refined over time, becomes a force multiplier for learning, decision-making, and personal growth. Each inquiry compounds, producing insight, understanding, and mastery that ripple across tasks, projects, and long-term goals. Asking better questions consistently is not a habit of the curious. It is a discipline of the highly effective. It transforms work from routine activity into an arena of discovery, reflection, and innovation. Each well-crafted question bridges gaps in knowledge, illuminates hidden patterns, and catalyzes action. Over time, the consistent pursuit of understanding through strategic questioning produces a depth of insight, agility in problem solving, and accelerated learning that is both tangible and enduring. Number 8. Capture notes into action lists. Knowledge is only as valuable as the actions it produces. Many professionals diligently take notes during meetings, read books, or attend seminars, yet those notes rarely translate into results. Ideas sit idle in notebooks or digital files, disconnected from daily tasks. Capturing notes into action lists bridges this gap. It transforms passive observation into deliberate execution, converting insight into measurable progress. This practice is not simply organization. It is the mechanism by which learning drives achievement, ensuring that every idea, observation, or instruction has a clear path to implementation. The process begins with clarity. Every note should answer the question, what action does this information demand? General statements or abstract observations are insufficient. Instead of writing, need to improve client engagement. Reframe it as, schedule follow-up calls with 3 key clients this week to discuss feedback. Actionable phrasing converts passive understanding into a tangible task, creating a direct link between insight and execution. The mind processes actionable instructions differently than abstract ideas, making this step foundational to accelerated learning. Consistency is essential. Capturing notes effectively requires a disciplined habit of transforming information into action immediately, rather than allowing it to accumulate. After a meeting, review notes and highlight items that require follow-up. After reading a chapter in a professional book, extract specific strategies that can be applied the same day. Immediate conversion prevents knowledge decay, ensures relevance, and creates momentum. The longer ideas remain unprocessed, the higher the likelihood they are forgotten or ignored. Organize action lists logically. Group related tasks together. Prioritize based on impact, and assign deadlines where appropriate. Logical structure reduces cognitive load, makes the list easier to navigate, and increases the likelihood of follow-through. Categories might include client engagement, skill development, process improvement, or operational adjustments. By structuring action items clearly, the mind can focus on execution rather than decision-making about what to do next, streamlining workflow and reinforcing discipline. Detail and specificity amplify effectiveness. An action item that is vague, improve report quality, is unlikely to produce meaningful results. Break it down into concrete steps. Review last 3 monthly reports. Identify recurring errors, and draft a checklist for future reports. Specificity ensures that each action is achievable and measurable, enabling assessment of progress. Detailed action lists act as a roadmap, guiding behavior and converting abstract goals into tangible outcomes. Integration into daily routines is critical. Action lists should be reviewed and updated at consistent intervals: morning planning, midday check-ins, and end-of-day reflection. This creates a rhythm where learning and execution are intertwined, ensuring that new knowledge is consistently applied. By embedding action lists into the workflow, the mind continuously transitions from observation to execution, producing measurable results and reinforcing the learning cycle. Prioritization ensures maximum impact. Not every note warrants immediate attention. Focus on items that produce high-leverage results first. Use frameworks such as urgency versus importance to rank tasks. Critical insights, strategic adjustments, or high-value actions should lead the list, while minor or low-impact items can be scheduled later. Prioritization converts action lists from a collection of ideas into a powerful tool for focus and efficiency, enabling progress where it matters most. Use visual cues to enhance recall and motivation. Color-coding checkboxes or highlighting completed items provides immediate feedback, reinforcing behavior and creating a sense of accomplishment. Visual signals activate the brain's reward system, making execution more compelling. Over time, seeing progress visually strengthens the habit of translating notes into action, reinforcing consistency and accelerating skill acquisition. Capture both micro and macro actions. Micro actions are small, immediate steps that can be completed quickly, such as sending an email or drafting a short report. Macro actions are larger projects requiring multiple steps or longer periods of attention. Including both ensures that daily productivity feeds into long-term goals. Micro actions create momentum, while macro actions align efforts with strategic objectives. The combination ensures that learning drives both immediate and sustained results. Reflection enhances the utility of action lists. At the end of each day or week, review completed tasks and analyze outcomes. Ask which actions produced meaningful impact and which were delayed or ineffective. And reflection identifies patterns, informs adjustments, and ensures continuous improvement. The act of reviewing completed and pending items converts routine execution into a deliberate, iterative process of growth, turning action lists into a dynamic tool for mastery. Technology can amplify efficiency. Digital task managers, note-taking apps, or project management tools enable quick conversion of observations into action items, facilitate reminders, and allow tracking over time. Use tools that integrate seamlessly with daily work, reducing friction between noting and acting. Automation of reminders, deadlines, and progress tracking ensures that action lists are consistently reviewed and applied, increasing both retention and execution. Connect action items to learning objectives. Each note captured should serve a dual purpose: immediate task completion and long-term skill reinforcement. For example, if reading about negotiation techniques, include specific practice exercises in the action list. By connecting tasks to learning goals, action items become vehicles for both operational impact and personal development, ensuring that work contributes to mastery. Accountability enhances follow-through. Share action lists with mentors, peers, or supervisors when appropriate. Reporting progress creates external motivation, encourages consistency, and provides opportunities for feedback. Accountability transforms lists from private intentions into commitments that produce measurable results. The social dimension reinforces focus, ensuring that ideas captured are executed rather than forgotten. Simplify when necessary. Overly complex or extensive action lists can overwhelm and reduce adherence. Break large lists into manageable segments. Focus on the most impactful items and avoid clutter. A concise, prioritized list is far more effective than a sprawling collection of tasks. The goal is consistent action, not perfection in organization. Leverage action lists for iterative improvement. After completing tasks, capture new observations, lessons learned, and refinements. Convert these into updated action items for subsequent cycles. This feedback loop ensures continuous improvement, transforming static notes into a living system that evolves with experience. Iterative refinement converts learning into skill, mistakes into lessons, and observation into strategy. Action lists also enhance focus during execution. By externalizing tasks, the mind is freed from holding multiple objectives simultaneously. Cognitive load is reduced, attention is concentrated on the task at hand, and decision fatigue is minimized. The list becomes a compass, guiding attention and energy toward meaningful, high-impact work. Develop a habit of immediate conversion. When encountering a new idea, insight, or instruction, pause to translate it into a specific action. Avoid the trap of passive note-taking or deferred planning. Immediate conversion reinforces memory, ensures relevance, and accelerates implementation. It creates a seamless bridge between learning and doing, embedding knowledge into behavior. Ultimately, capturing notes into action lists transforms passive accumulation of knowledge into tangible results. Insights, observations, and instructions become actionable steps, producing measurable progress, reinforcing learning and creating momentum. Over time, this habit compounds. Knowledge evolves into skill, tasks evolve into mastery, and consistent execution drives both professional performance and personal growth. Action lists are not merely organizational tools, they are the mechanism by which learning manifests in the real world, converting potential into achievement, ideas into impact, and observation into enduring competence. Number 9, seek mentors. Copy their workflows. Growth accelerates when we learn from those who have already mastered what we aim to achieve. Seeking mentors is not simply about advice or encouragement. It is about accessing a living map of experience, insight, and proven strategies. Mentors embody knowledge that has been tested, refined, and applied in real-world contexts. Observing their workflows, habits, and decision-making processes offers a shortcut to competence that individual trial and error cannot match. By studying and emulating these patterns, one gains a framework for success that transforms learning from slow exploration into rapid, guided progress. The first step is identifying mentors who exemplify the skills or outcomes you wish to develop. Choose individuals whose results are tangible, whose methods are transparent, and whose values align with your own objectives. The goal is not to imitate blindly, but to extract principles, habits, and workflows that can be adapted to your unique context. By selecting the right mentors, you ensure that the guidance and behaviors you emulate have a proven track record of effectiveness. Observation is the foundation of mentorship learning. Pay close attention to the daily routines, decision-making processes, and problem-solving approaches of your mentors. How do they structure their workday? How do they prioritize tasks? How do they respond to challenges? Each detail is a lesson. Observing consistently allows patterns to emerge, revealing workflows that have been honed through experience. These patterns are often more valuable than theoretical instruction because they demonstrate practical application under real-world constraints. Emulation is more than copying. It is deliberate practice, informed by observation. Take notes on workflows, document procedures, and identify behaviors that produce results. Then integrate them into your own work gradually. For example, if a mentor begins the day by reviewing key metrics, experiment with adopting a similar review process. If they allocate time for focused, uninterrupted work, replicate that structure in your schedule. The principle is to internalize effective methods and make them part of your daily rhythm. Consistency amplifies learning from mentors. One-time observation provides insight, but repeated exposure deepens understanding. Attend meetings, review projects, and observe decision-making over time. Repetition allows subtleties to become apparent, small adjustments in timing, phrasing, or sequencing that produce disproportionate results. These nuances are often invisible at first glance, but critical to the mentor's effectiveness. Regular engagement ensures that the lessons are absorbed and integrated, rather than superficial. Seek context alongside observation. Understanding why a mentor executes a workflow in a certain way is as important as copying the steps. Ask questions about rationale, priorities, and trade-offs. Recognize that the methods are shaped by objectives, constraints, and experience. Context allows you to adapt workflows intelligently rather than applying them blindly. When a method is aligned with understanding, it becomes flexible, resilient, and suited to your own challenges. Feedback is essential to refining emulation. Share your attempts with the mentor, colleagues, or peers, and solicit critiques. External input helps identify areas where the workflow has been misapplied, misunderstood, or could be improved. Mentorship is iterative. Observe, emulate, test, and refine. Feedback transforms copying into learning, ensuring that adaptation produces results rather than frustration or wasted effort. Adaptation is the bridge between emulation and mastery. A mentor's workflow reflects their unique experience, strengths, and context. To benefit fully, you must tailor these workflows to your environment, resources, and goals. For example, a mentor may delegate certain tasks, whereas you might handle them personally. The principle of prioritization remains, but execution differs. Adaptation ensures that emulation enhances effectiveness rather than producing mechanical mimicry. Document workflows for reference and reflection. Writing down processes, key principles, and observed strategies allows you to internalize them and revisit as needed. This record becomes both a roadmap for execution and a tool for evaluation. Over time, reviewing the documented workflows clarifies patterns, highlights progress, and identifies areas for further refinement. The act of recording reinforces memory and provides a structured system for consistent improvement. Leverage multiple mentors for a broader perspective. No single individual embodies all the skills, insights, or approaches necessary for complete mastery. By observing and learning from several mentors, you gain access to a wider array of strategies, philosophies, and workflows. Comparative observation allows you to synthesize best practices, combine complementary techniques, and develop a uniquely effective approach informed by diverse experiences. Mentorship learning thrives on active engagement. Passive observation is insufficient. Ask thoughtful questions, request demonstrations, and seek explanations of decision-making processes. Engage in real-world tasks under the mentor's guidance when possible. The combination of observation, inquiry, and practice accelerates understanding and embeds knowledge deeply, producing skill acquisition that is both rapid and durable. Time management is a critical component of mentor workflows. Study how mentors allocate time, structure priorities, and manage energy. Their approaches often reflect refined efficiency and focus. Implementing similar strategies enhances personal productivity, reduces wasted effort, and reinforces the principle that success is not only what is done, but how effort is organized and applied consistently. Modeling mindset is as important as modeling technique. Observe how mentors approach challenges, setbacks, and uncertainty. Their attitudes, resilience, and decision-making frameworks are key drivers of performance. Copying the mechanics without adopting the underlying mindset limits growth. Emulating perspective and approach ensures that behaviors are grounded in the same principles that produce exceptional outcomes, fostering both skill and judgment. Iterative practice solidifies learning from mentors. Implement observed workflows repeatedly, refine with each iteration, and assess outcomes critically. The cycle of practice, reflection, and adjustment transforms external strategies into internalized competence. Over time, what was once borrowed becomes instinctive, integrated, and adaptable. Mastery emerges not from mere copying, but from disciplined, continuous engagement and refinement. Accountability enhances the benefits of mentorship. Sharing progress, demonstrating applied workflows, and discussing results with mentors creates external reinforcement, Accountability ensures consistency, encourages deeper engagement, and provides guidance on fine-tuning methods. The combination of observation, emulation, feedback, and accountability forms a robust system for rapid skill development. Leverage the principle of compounding insight. Each mentor's workflow carries lessons from years of experience, decisions, and adjustments. By studying multiple workflows, synthesizing principles, and practicing them deliberately, the learner accumulates knowledge at an accelerated pace. This approach condenses years of trial and error into months of guided practice, producing results that are otherwise difficult to achieve independently. Recognize that seeking mentors is not about dependence, but about acceleration. Mentorship provides guidance, reduces unnecessary errors, and exposes patterns that are otherwise invisible. When combined with deliberate practice, reflection, and adaptation, mentorship magnifies learning, turning raw effort into precise, efficient, and measurable progress. Ultimately, copying mentor workflows is a strategy for rapid mastery. Observation, emulation, adaptation, and iteration convert external expertise into personal competence. Each session, task, and insight becomes an opportunity to integrate proven methods into your own practice. Over time, these habits compound, producing not only skill but judgment, resilience, and a framework for continuous improvement. Mentorship transforms learning from a solitary, trial-based process into a guided yet accelerated journey, ensuring that effort translates directly into enduring results. The professionals who thrive are those who do not reinvent the wheel in isolation. They observe, emulate, and adapt. They capture workflows, test them, refine them, and make them their own. By seeking mentors and copying their effective strategies, learning becomes efficient, growth becomes predictable, and success becomes attainable at a pace far beyond ordinary effort. Mastery emerges not from chance, but from deliberate alignment with proven expertise, continuous application, and disciplined adaptation. Number 10. Measure progress with clear metrics. Progress without measurement is invisible. Many professionals work diligently, invest hours, and pursue improvement, yet without clear metrics, effort often produces little insight into growth. Measuring progress with defined, meaningful indicators transforms effort into feedback, learning into action, and goals into tangible achievement. Metrics provide clarity, reveal gaps, highlight strengths, and guide decisions. They convert subjective perception into objective reality, ensuring that each step taken advances skill, competence, and effectiveness in measurable ways. The first step is defining what matters. Not all outcomes are equally important, and not every activity warrants measurement. Identify the aspects of performance that directly influence results, skill development, for example, in sales, metrics might include leads converted, response time, or revenue generated. In a creative role, output quality, project completion rates, or audience engagement could serve as indicators. Focused measurement ensures that attention is directed toward areas that produce meaningful change, rather than superficial activity. Metrics must be specific and actionable. Vague indicators such as improve performance or work harder offer little guidance. Replace them with concrete measures like increase task completion rate by 20% within 3 months, or reduce error rate in reports by 50%. Specificity transforms measurement into a tool for decision-making, enabling the identification of areas needing adjustment and the tracking of incremental improvement. Clear metrics make growth visible and actionable. Quantification is powerful. When possible, express progress numerically, proportionally, or in time-based terms. Numbers provide precision, comparability, and objectivity. Tracking how many client calls were made, how many errors were corrected, or how many hours of focused practice were completed allows trends to emerge over time. Quantitative data removes ambiguity, creating a foundation for analysis and informed action. However, not all valuable outcomes are purely numerical. Qualitative assessment complements quantitative metrics by evaluating dimensions such as creativity, communication effectiveness, or emotional intelligence. These may be measured through structured feedback, peer review, or self-assessment scales. Combining quantitative and qualitative metrics produces a balanced understanding of progress, capturing both measurable outcomes and subtler indicators of growth. Tracking metrics requires consistency. Sporadic measurement creates gaps, obscures patterns, and reduces reliability. Integrate measurement into routine workflows, daily, weekly, or monthly, depending on the activity and desired feedback frequency. Regular tracking produces a continuous stream of data that reveals trends, accelerates learning, and allows early detection of deviations before they escalate into setbacks. Consistency transforms measurement from an occasional check-in into a powerful mechanism for continuous improvement. Visualization enhances comprehension. Metrics are most effective when they are accessible and interpretable at a glance. Charts, graphs, dashboards, or simple progress trackers provide immediate insight into trends, progress, and areas needing attention. Visual representation engages the brain more effectively than raw data, making patterns evident and motivating sustained effort. Seeing improvement reinforces behavior, while gaps illuminate opportunities for focused action. Metrics should align with goals. Measuring irrelevant factors wastes time and may create misleading feedback. Each metric must reflect an outcome that matters to skill development, project success, or strategic objectives. For instance, tracking hours worked without linking them to results, or learning outcomes produces activity without insight. Alignment ensures that measurement informs action, drives improvement, and connects daily effort to long-term achievement. Regular reflection on metrics is essential. Review collected data critically, identifying trends, anomalies, and causes behind performance changes. Ask questions such as, what factors contributed to improvement? Why did performance dip? And what actions can accelerate progress? Reflection converts raw measurement into actionable understanding, producing insight that informs adjustments and enhances future performance. Incremental tracking allows for early intervention. Small deviations or trends can be addressed before they escalate into significant issues. For example, noticing a slight drop in task completion or a minor delay in response time enables corrective action immediately, rather than waiting for a major problem to appear. Metrics provide foresight, turning potential setbacks into opportunities for timely correction and continuous growth. Use benchmarks for comparison. Establishing standards, historical baselines, or industry norms creates context for metrics. Comparing current performance against previous periods or accepted standards helps assess improvement objectively. Benchmarks prevent complacency, illuminate gaps, and motivate further advancement. They also provide clarity on what constitutes acceptable or exceptional performance. Feedback loops amplify the power of measurement. Share metrics with mentors, peers, or supervisors for perspective. External input validates observations, provides additional insight, and reinforces accountability. Feedback helps interpret metrics correctly, ensuring that data translates into meaningful adjustments and sustained growth. Collaboration in evaluating metrics strengthens learning and enhances the precision of corrective action. Prioritize key metrics to avoid overload. Tracking too many indicators can overwhelm, create noise, and dilute focus. Identify a few high-impact measures that accurately reflect progress, and prioritize those for daily or weekly monitoring. Concentration on key metrics allows cognitive resources to be applied effectively, ensuring that measurement guides action rather than becoming a distraction. Adapt metrics as goals evolve. As skills develop, projects advance, or organizational priorities shift, the relevance of certain indicators changes. Periodically reassess which metrics provide meaningful insight and adjust accordingly. This flexibility ensures that measurement remains aligned with growth objectives and continues to guide learning effectively. Metrics are not static. They must evolve alongside capability and context. Celebrate progress visible through metrics. Recognizing achievements, no matter how incremental, reinforces positive behavior and motivates continued effort. Metrics provide objective evidence of improvement, creating a feedback loop that strengthens focus, discipline, and commitment to growth. Acknowledging progress fosters resilience, maintaining momentum through challenges and setbacks. Integrate metrics with action planning. Data alone is insufficient. It must inform deliberate adjustments in strategy, workflow, or behavior. Use measurement to identify specific actions that accelerate learning, improve efficiency, or enhance outcomes. Each metric should prompt reflection, experimentation, and refinement, converting observation into effective, targeted action. Metrics also enhance long-term perspective. By maintaining historical records, patterns over months or years become visible, revealing compounding progress, skill development trajectories, and the cumulative impact of sustained effort. This perspective provides both motivation and strategic insight, allowing planning to be informed by evidence rather than assumption. Accountability strengthens adherence to metrics. Sharing measurable goals and progress with a mentor, peer, or manager increases responsibility, encourages consistency, and motivates precision. External accountability transforms metrics from passive records into active drivers of performance improvement, ensuring that insight produces tangible results. Ultimately, measuring progress with clear metrics transforms learning and effort into visible, actionable growth. It removes ambiguity, reveals blind spots, and provides a structured framework for continuous improvement. Metrics create a mirror of performance, enabling reflection, adjustment, and strategic action. By defining meaningful indicators, tracking consistently, and applying insight, every step of effort produces measurable impact. Professionals who adopt this approach accelerate their development, avoid wasted effort, and maximize results. Measurement converts intention into evidence, observation into strategy, and work into mastery. The act of tracking progress is not merely administrative, it is the backbone of disciplined learning, providing clarity, accountability, and momentum. Over time, clear metrics compound, producing growth that is not only visible but enduring, ensuring that every hour, effort, and decision contributes directly to lasting competence and meaningful achievement.